Sorry, thank you. Yeah, we're going to start with Heritage Foundation here, and I thank everybody for showing up today. Because this gets into kind of why this channel started in the first place. And it's a little dystopian. So the document in question is called Seizing the Moment, a State Education Agenda for 2023. To be clear, it is an attempt to start changing how education works to favor conservative causes. So key takeaways, there's significant momentum for state-level reforms that empower parents through education choice, parental bills of rights, and curriculum transparency. I have a problem with parents deciding what a curriculum should be taught in a school. Parents are not teachers. Parents don't necessarily have the training required to be able to say, I know what should be taught to a child in school. States have been able to come up with their own standards largely for what has to be learned by students, and that's somewhat of an issue, but not a major one. The problem for public education in America is that it is funded by property taxes, and property taxes are dependent upon the value of the homes in question. So a rich community with big homes that have large property tax bills can afford better schools than a community that doesn't. This is in some ways a concerted effort to create segregation among class. It also ends up creating segregation among race because communities tend to be segregated de facto in America rather than de jure as it was previously during the Jim Crow era. State policymakers have a duty to secure free speech and open academic inquiry at public colleges and universities. I'm not thrilled about the Heritage Foundation deciding what is and isn't free speech. Education savings account for every child. This lets them, let's see, state lawmakers should consider proposals the opportunity to use an education project and services for their children. A parent applies for an account, usually submitting the application to the State Department of Education. The agency approves. The parent removes the child from the assigned public school. Yep. So this is really an attempt to kill public education and to kill the public education unions. The state agency sends parents information allows them to list an online account portal. Or can you choose from a list of education providers such as a personal tutor and product, or request a provider who is not on the list? So we'll pay tuition for online courses or individual services, such as classes at traditional public schools and hire an educational therapist and personal tutors. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to having that kind of account for a student if it didn't take money out of public schools. Consider reforms and improve the quality of learning for these students and make effective. So this gets into the effort they did, such as Florida, when they turned around and tried to get veterans' spouses to be public school teachers. They're trying to deprofessionalize teaching, which is a problem. Like, teacher education isn't just the subject matter, it's also how to teach people. Like the particular styles and strategies that go into teaching people. And It's an ongoing field of academic research. It has moved substantially. I live with teachers. I see a lot of teachers. It has moved substantially from when I was in school to now. How we approach students, how we talk to them, what we do for them. All of these things are the result of education moving what the standard is. The certification and keeping people up on continuing education and getting further education in how to teach people isn't a arbitrary requirement. It is a requirement to make sure that people are getting the best education possible. The measure of standardized testing as a sole measure of educational attainment is flawed, because I know plenty of people who are perfectly capable of existing in the world who didn't do well in their ACTs. I know perfectly plenty of people who did very well in their ACTs and got into good schools and are complete idiots. Tests are only as good as their creators, and there are serious problems with College Board and the ACT and the SAT. And these standardized tests, which largely fall through the same companies, who make bank, I would argue, point out, off of these tests. Hey, Cal, make bank off of these tests, and they don't seem to really measure up to what people are learning. Enacting Parental Bill of Rights. State legislators should also consider policies that protect the rights of parents who choose traditional public schools for their children. Recent surveys measuring voter and parent satisfaction include radical instruction on race and ambiguous instruction about gender, and the majority of parents oppose such lessons. So, if you get into what we talk about here a little bit in the About Us video, the debate about CRT was a big impetus in starting this channel. Because the debate about CRT is like, CRT is being taught in classrooms. It's this horrible liberal idea that historians and history teachers everywhere are pushing. And I'm like, I beg your pardon? We're doing what now? It's kind of like the war on Christmas all over again. We're waging war on Christmas. Why didn't anyone invite me? Yeah, if during the COVID-19 pandemic, when watchdog reports and parent complaints to it, appreciate attention to the application of critical race theory and racial gender theory in K through 12 classrooms. Critical race theory isn't being taught in schools. A robust understanding of American history is what's being targeted here. This conception that American history should accurately reflect what happened and talk about America's treatment of Native Americans, talk about America's enslavement of Africans, talk about the triangle trade, talk about things critically. That is where racial gender theory. Look, the Heritage Foundation is a horrible organization. They will certainly not paint these things accurately. Left of center curricular materials in the mind is neither close the achievement gap. What are the left of center curriculum? Slavery existed is not a left of center position. So there is a concerted conservative effort in this country to control education. Turning Point USA, for instance, is taking these fights to college campuses. And great example is the discussion that kind of materialized yesterday about a progressive orthodoxy kicking college professors out of jobs, which President Sunday investigated and found no evidence of, at least in the evidence that was provided to him by the DDG subreddit. There is an effort to make sure that whatever you do doesn't have to make sure that people don't learn about alternatives to conservatism. Because this concept, and you'll see it in a lot of people, they go out, they start experiencing education, and they aren't conservative anymore. People have noticed, for instance, trends where people who traditionally would become more conservative as they age haven't become more conservative. Conservatives have a problem in that as they become increasingly radical, they have a much harder time of convincing people of their ideology, particularly if those people have been exposed to some other option. So what they're trying to do is at every level ensure that people are not exposed to another option and not exposed to a message that is contrary to what conservatives are advancing. So, the idea is kind of similar to religion, where you're targeting a person who does not have the context yet to properly evaluate your claims. It's especially insidious if you're starting to target kindergartners, because they have absolutely no context and they just want to play with blocks. If we're prohibiting compelled speech, can we make people say the Pledge of Allegiance? Just questioning. Like, I've yet to see any evidence that critical race theory, which is, in my understanding, a fairly high-level intersectional legal concept, is being taught to kids in grade school. And we're going on about trying to block transgender people too. Oh, good. Here we go. Securing free speech on campus. Prohibit public or college officials from creating free speech zones on campus that limit speech on controversial issues to certain areas of campus. Campuses are places where people not only go to school but live. The concept that you can go to anywhere and is to be like if I went into your living room and started screeching about the Illuminati and you didn't want me to. It's not unreasonable to designate an area where people in a campus can go to and then leave if they don't want to deal with something. With a slight wrinkle, and I could be wrong, so please feel free to. Universities tend to intensify political allegiance in both directions. I would have to look. I'm not sure on that specifically. I would tend to. You're always going to have you're always going to have an option to silo your views. So I'm not entirely certain that uh, if you're going to go in one direction, if you're going to go in one direction, you're going to go there. And if you're not, like people getting turned around, like a conservative becoming left wing or a left winger becoming conservative because of education is, I think, probably hard to verify. Yes, like I know people who went to college and became libertarians, but they also came from conservative backgrounds to begin with. Um, uh, Family members actually. So, like, and to be clear, my experience in college has always been that most instructors, especially in history and especially in military history, very much in military history, are very conservative. Like coming at somebody with a Marxist reading of history is not a great plan in an academic conference. You probably won't get very far. Um, Coming at like leftist critiques aren't hugely popular in academic circles, uh, and so and you see a lot of I see a lot of liberal. It's really an artifact of who's going to college and what they're experiencing versus where they came from a lot of the times. So I went to college in Chicago, uh, which is a very different experience than going to college in a college town. Both an exposure to new ideas and an exposure to different people. But you're getting a lot of people who are being exposed to ideas that simply aren't discussed in high school. Um, Unless they're taking AP courses. And even if you take AP, because I took AP European history in high school, and we didn't talk extensively about Marxism, even though that's fairly fundamental to European history. Uh, like there's a huge that's because that doesn't appear on the College Board's AP test, not because the teacher who was incredibly skilled and someone I talk to this day, and Hetman as well. We both had him for various stuff. He basically designed our high school's entire elective set of history courses, but it didn't include it in the AP test, so it wasn't covered extensively. It's entirely a question of what impetus you have to be exposed to something. And in college, you get more impetus to be exposed to more things. And there's also a wider variety of things uh, that you're exposed to. I took a course on ancient Indian history, for example, uh, which is not something that I would have necessarily taken under normal circumstances. So there's a lot of opportunities to learn new things and to see new perspectives. And stifling that is going to be devastating to the historical and the political literacy of America's population. Create policies that forbid public university officials from sanctioning students or college employees for taking public positions on current issues that conflict with stated university positions on those topics. That's not necessarily bad, but those public positions are usually established by rich conservative donors. Prevent public college officials from disinviting speakers to campuses because of the speaker's views. That's not acceptable. Uh, the school has a same fundamental right, and individuals in the school have the same fundamental right to freedom of association that anyone else in the country does. It's literally baked into the First Amendment. You'd think they would have read that if they're so constitutional over there at the Heritage Foundation. Require public university leaders to adopt policies that allow suspension or expulsion of students who engage in hecklers, veto, or violent shoutdowns of professors or other speakers on campus. But I thought we were doing freedom of speech. The student doesn't have the right to speak, but they have freedom of speech. Almost all public colleges have a freshman orientation session that informs students of the rules and boundaries. Uh, Everyone's gone through it that's gone to college. It's a pretty common. It's a pretty common. It's a very common program. Like require public colleges to produce an annual report on the legislature explaining incidents involving free speech and expression on campus and how the administration dealt with each incident. Yes, so basically they're trying to set up a system that will intimidate students and allow for conservative expression to not be challenged. This is wonderful, wonderful hot garbage. Look out for it in your states. Start writing letters against it if you see it. It's bad. It fundamentally undermines the ability of American students to get a good education. And that is Heritage Foundation nonsense. Now we're going on to bear with me, I hate Twitch. Oh, good. DemonMama Live. I don't know if videos.
R2D2, fuck off to the afterlife where you're fat and see-through. You're the biggest letdown.
Then use those lies in a no hate to the epic rap battles of history, guys. Like they've committed to the bit, and I got to give them credit.
So I'm not sure where DemonMama starts with the not so erudite President Sunday stuff, but there is some wild stuff that happened last night. I have questions, so many questions.
You guys want to watch something? I think I got one more thing to react to in me.
Oh, good. We're here. I think we're okay if we skip past this part, Cedar.
Oh, and of course, like I said, they did give me the I am Adolf Hitler one, which is really, really fucking funny. You can't beat that one. You really just can't. Okay.
My favorite set of epic rap battles from history is the Western versus Eastern philosophers, but followed closely by the series of the 3 Darth Vader versus Hitler ones. They're just on that side of irreverent to be funny.
Okay. I got one more react in me. You guys want to react into something really funny? Hold on a second.
Yep, this is it.
Because I got something we could watch that's really fucking funny. What if I told you that there was a streamer who has been credibly accused of lying about their credentials in order to gain irrelevant debate points?
No, on the internet?
What if I told you that a streamer, a streamer who previously did, whose previous claim to fame was appearing once on Fresh and Fit, and previous to that was most well known for doing a lengthy stream in which they defended Destiny for him making fun of my partner's suicide attempt? What if I told you that that person has been credibly accused of lying about their credentials? Would that not be incredibly entertaining? Because guess what? It's true. They have been. And I feel like it would be very funny for us to react to it. So, some of you may have heard of a content creator by the name Not So Erudite. Not So Erudite is not a particularly remarkable person, in my opinion. Again, the main contact I had with them was them doing a lengthy stream, doubling down, saying that it was actually okay for Destiny to make fun of my partner's suicide attempt for no real
trying to correct. I'm going to leave the chat up too because that becomes relevant later on. Constantly trying to correct and to carry water for him. Like, the man has an entire industry of people who are just dedicated to saying, well, actually, Destiny really said something that was just perfectly fine.
reason. So not a really super amazing person, but as it turns out, this person, I should also state, Not So Erudite also made the claim that people who are critical of IQ tests are the same as anti-vaxxers, which is certainly, a very, very interesting position to have. Yes, yeah, I'm not kidding you. That tweet will come up, I believe, in this video. I just thought it would be fun. This was a video that was put together by President Sunday. And President Sunday really, really did his due diligence. So I thought it would be fun for us to react to this. Because if there's one thing that I fucking can't stand on this planet, it is people who constantly lie and then use those lies in sort of a way to cover for the abuses of others. So I thought it would be fun for us to react to this. What do you all think?
The other thing to point out is all of this is made exponentially worse by the fact that she's charging people to use a free service where she recommends a therapist to them without any kind of professional qualification that gives her a license to make those assessments. Like, she goes, I don't include social workers. And I rewatched the Poppy and Xena segment last night. Yeah, I rewatched the Poppy and Xena segment last night, and I actually am very close friends with a social worker who does clinical work. At least I'm pretty sure she does clinical work. At any rate, I checked about the ethical efficacy of someone who is not a licensed therapist making recommendations to the effect of who is a viable and not viable therapist, and to exclude those things. Flat out told me not ethical. Secondly, they pointed out that a person who is not a licensed therapist has no basis upon which to make those claims. He's actually very good guest. We'll be doing an interview with her some point after she gets back from a family vacation.
You all think that would be interesting? If you think that would be interesting, please put a nodders in chat. All right, give me a nodders if you thought that would be if you think this would be interesting. Let's see them. Let's see how many nodders we get. Wow, that's a lot of nodders. All right, let's find out how Not So Erudite lies to you. Let's fucking do it. Oh yeah, Ducky Lucy Hayes says she also charges money for linking people with therapists, and her partner says that she does this and does zero evaluation as to what help they actually need.
So, Karasu, there is a mention of insurance information being collected in that video. I'm not sure about the law in question for Canada or the United States, but I'm pretty sure that's considered protected health information, or at the very least, like, it's certainly personal information that you don't want floating around. So there would have to be a much more thorough investigation of that particular claim and what information is being collected and how it's being handled, which is not within our capacity to do.
How curious. All right, let's watch. Let's watch the video.
Before we begin, I want to talk about the importance of credentials and the grave dangers of falsifying them. Professional and academic titles primarily exist to claim jurisdictional
Oh wait, hold
authority.
on a second, everybody. I have to do one modification. No, I can't. Let's do it.
To laypersons with respect to a subject. For example, a woman makes a claim concerning the efficacy of vaccines, and when challenged, is able to refer to a professional title as a medical doctor to bolster her credibility. We should listen to her because she's a doctor. She knows what she's talking about. If this claim to authority is distrusted, that is, if it is questioned whether or not she indeed has a right to that professional title, she can produce a written credential proving that she has been granted that right by a legitimate organization. If she can't produce that written credential, however, then she cannot substantiate her claim to authority, justifying her claim concerning...
No, and that's exactly right. I have a I wouldn't put any stock into what her husband says. I see a therapist, and I had to sign all kinds of waivers that make me aware of how data is collected, what it's used for, and what my recourses are if that data is abused.
Concerning the efficacy of vaccines, and her claims may be rightfully downgraded to the status of mere opinion. In short, credentials exist to justify claims to authority. This does not mean that credentials justify all claims simply. Often, people with even the most prestigious credentials are wrong.
Sounds good,
Sometimes they may even lie. Sometimes, true claims or even great discoveries are made by people with no credentials against people with the strongest credentials.
True.
And sometimes, someone with no credentials pretends to have them in order to make themselves and the claims they make seem more credible
Welcome back,
than they
Socked
really
Left.
are. Meet Kyla, aka Not So Erudite as she calls herself on Twitch and YouTube, who I first became aware of as a result of her debate with Chudlogic concerning Dr. Alok Kanogia, better known as Dr. K.
Do you guys remember the Dr. K saga?
Speaking of which, Dr. K is kind of skeevy as hell. I'm very wary of doing therapy over stream to begin with. That seems fraught with all kinds of ethical problems.
The Dr. K saga was a whole thing. I don't know if any...
And to be clear, I have a really big problem with medical providers kind of sort of crossing the line, but not really, and thinking that that's okay.
anybody remembers that. A bunch of people got really mad at Dr. K, and it was actually kind of difficult to follow. It was difficult for me to follow. Basically, people were there were some strong arguments made against Dr. K initially, and it kind of spun off into some really, really weird shit. Yeah, a lot of people do seem to come to the conclusion that Dr. K was in the wrong. I don't know almost anything about the situation, except for that at the end, everybody sort of started obsessing over his statements on Ayurvedic medicine. It's very weird. It was a very, very weird saga. But yeah, Dr. K is kind of known for doing, for treading the line of, let's call it that, for treading the line of ethical therapeutic.
Dr. Phil doesn't have a medical license. It was taken from him quite some time ago.
Practices. He does conversations that are legally distinct from therapy, but that appear and function very similar to therapy. However, he does them with an audience. So he will have a conversation with a large streamer, which is basically a therapy session, but that is held in front of an audience. And it's definitely worth inquiry. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Let's put that. Yeah. So, sorry, I got a little distracted. What was I saying? Yes. So, Dr. K. Definitely. There's a lot of very genuine questions that have been raised against Dr. K, especially because Dr. K, one of Dr. K's very notable patients, committed suicide.
So I'm not sure it's appropriate to call him a patient. But essentially, and I'm not entirely certain how the two are connected, because if you're not necessarily providing a therapy, that person's not really in your care. But if you're providing quasi-therapy, they kind of quasi are in your care. And I'm certain that it's something of a legal distinction. The problem is that if Dr. K had simply limited himself to talking broadly and generally about because the precept behind Healthy Gamer is he's trying to address a particular set of issues. If he had limited himself to talking broadly and generally about this, and not, for example, take it into, like he does this thing where he takes individual Redditors writing things and then starts diagnosing them and pointing out all these things about them. Like if you'd taken this stuff and talked broadly about it, it probably wouldn't be a problem. It would be kind of quackery-ish to try to generalize in such a way, but the way he does it is kind of troubling, because he's making an assessment about people that they might use medically. Like therapy is it's a very difficult thing. Like it's very important to me to make this distinction, because therapy, going for someone to go to therapy is oftentimes a big step, because there's a stigma attached to therapy. There's a stigma attached to mental health issues. It's very much a thing where you're taking accountability for yourself, and it's very personal. And if it was a case of Dr. K, or not so erudite, leading people into better outcomes, then it might be a different story. But really, it looks like exploitation. And I think in such a vulnerable area, and especially if you're talking about vulnerable populations, because the internet is a meeting place for people who have different marginalizations. People are finding community here, and they're finding community in this ecosystem of streamers. So it seems so disingenuous. It seems so disingenuous to abuse that and to claim to value mental health education and providing.
Shortly after their most recent conversation. Now, as far as I can tell, there's no real reason. There was no real reason to believe that Dr. K was at fault for this. However, the situation brought a lot of scrutiny on his practices, and I think that there was good reason for there to be scrutiny. But anyway, this is kind of a distraction. I just wanted to sort of give you an idea of what was being discussed in the Dr. K situation. And the reason, and the sort of reason why it's relevant that we understand the Dr. K situation is because it is an example of one of the many times that I believe it's an example of how muddied the waters can be with credentials online. A trained, credentialed psychiatrist or psychologist, I believe is what Dr. K is, practicing actual medicine and also doing these sort of live, highly psychologically inspired conversations. It gets muddy it gets difficult to draw the line between what is professional and what is not professional. Practicing in public is super weird for any therapist. I agree. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that people understood the context of the Dr. K situation. Yeah, so there you go. We can talk about that separately to greater depth, but I wanted to make sure before we went further into the video that people understood that context. Let's continue.
In the wake of the suicide of one of his guests, a gaming streamer going by the name Wreckful in 2020, ChudLogic and others took issue with what they took to be Dr. K's inappropriate live streaming of quasi-therapy sessions before a very large audience on his channel, Healthy Gamer.
This
as
is
well
actually
as what
about
they
when I
took to
got
be
in here tonight,
pseudoscientific
last night.
claims concerning the existence or non-existence of specific mental illnesses like depression, as well as insinuations that Ayurvedic medicine, such as that offered by his institution, could cure serious illnesses such as cancer. This debate disturbed me not because Kyla misrepresented her own credentials in any explicit way here, but because she attempted to portray herself as having a superior grasp of subject-relevant technicalities by means of terminology unintuitive enough to a layperson like ChudLogic to cause them to second-guess themselves, to put them on the back foot, and assert dominance in the conversation without actually adding any new information or providing clarity. All, no less, while running interference for someone profiting from quite possible malpractice.
But if there's clinical experience, if there's even one case study, even if there's weak...
So the voice you're hearing is not so erudite. And in this particular instance, it appears that President Sunday is defending ChudLogic to a certain degree, which is credit to President Sunday for being able to put aside bad blood.
evidence for doshas, technically, it's empirically backed.
No, I don't agree with this case. I don't agree with this case study thing at all. I don't think one
well,
case
I'm
study...
not using case studies. I can just show you the image I have of multiple peer-review articles. Because what he talks about, so when you're referring to Dr. K, he's talking about basically more or less his experience of, not his experience, he's had, I think he was talking about, he had a bunch of Ayurvedic practitioners in India that predicted how COVID would influence those people, right?
Right, okay.
Okay, so that's why I'm talking about individual case studies, because in that case, that would be clinical experience, and if they documented it, that would then be labeled as a case study if it got peer-reviewed and published. That's what I'm talking about.
But case studies are considered to be the most useless part of like medical. Like
okay,
you
wait.
You would never use a case study.
Can you walk me through? You need to prove to me. Can you walk me through the steps of hypothesis?
Why? Why do I have to prove to you that I know the steps of hypothesis generation to be able to get at a fact downstream of the efficacy of a particular modality of study? Why would I have to do that? I don't have to do the study myself in order to read the results of the study. That's the entire point of having experts, is that they can do the work and then I just go to the end and see the conclusion. And then if I have questions, I can go back up into the thing. That's what abstracts are about. Here is what we found. Here is what we studied. Here's what we found. Blah. That tells me at a glance, right away, what I'm reading and whether or not it is valuable to me in the formulation of my current research. So it's not that I need to go out and if I have a investigation that is some way intersects with psychology, that I need to go out and be a psychologist and the idea behind there's an additional idea behind credentials that hasn't been talked about here, not mostly because it's not relevant, is that it breaks up a workload on things that are cross-disciplinary so that you can have multiple people coming at different things from multiple angles, and they do not necessarily have to be experts on it.
Hypothesis generation. Do you know them?
Well, no, I don't know the steps of hypothesis generation.
Then what?
And this is also a part where she would lose me, because the incredulous what doesn't serve to elucidate any more or promulgate any more new information. It doesn't tell me why those steps are relevant necessarily as it does to trying to make a person who your interlocutor look like an idiot. So, and I make this reference to today's video too that President Sunday put out. Authority should not be used as a club. You are assuming a position where you might be in an area where you're going to educate someone, which means you have expertise not because you're an asshole. You have expertise because you know things.
You don't?
No.
You need to know that if you're levying these critiques.
Why are you being so condescending?
Why?
You've been condescending to me almost this whole conversation.
No,
to be honest.
I haven't been condescending to you at all. You've insinuated that I'm fucking racist earlier, which I let slide.
No, I didn't.
Really make a big
I
deal
didn't
out of
insinuate.
You absolutely
asked me specifically about it, and I clearly said I don't think you're racist. No, I'm not acting like anything. I'm not acting in any way.
Remind me, sorry, what are your qualifications again?
What does that matter?
Because you brought up qualifications. You brought up a necessary knowledge set. That implies that you have that knowledge set. So now it very much matters.
I ask you for any of your qualifications?
No, I'd just like to know, because if you want to take the expertise and act all pretentious with me, you can tell me what your qualifications are.
Okay, sure. Why don't I tell you the process of hypothesis generation?
No.
Since apparently you didn't know it, and then we can be on the same page.
Tell me what. No. I'm not interested in that. Tell me what your qualifications are.
I'm not going down that road with you because it feels like bad faith argument. I can.
Well, no, I'm just
everyone knows
asking.
what my qualifications are in my channel. You're welcome to ask.
You want to be super.
Asking a question is not an argument. Like asking a question to seek clarity, because that's what he's doing here. And to be fair, I find Chud Logic insufferable. I can't watch him. But to be fair, what he's doing here is he's trying to establish on what basis he's being condescended to, which is very charitable, I think, in his case.
Pretentious of me.
This isn't good faith argument. This isn't good faith. I'm not being pretentious with you.
I looked into her history, and I found a Destiny segment referring to her as a psychologist in the title. In this stream, she introduces herself as a psychometrician, and later refers to herself as a psychologist in that same stream.
Do you want to introduce yourself and why you wanted to chat, so that people know who you are?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I'm going by Not So Erudite on social media. My name is Kylo. I am a psychometrician. That's my kind of highest level of professional training, and I am going to school for a master's.
A psychometrician. Okay. Something you guys are going to have to keep in mind here is there's going to be some, don't worry, President Sunday is going to explain it pretty well, but psychometry, psychometrician, psychometrist, these are all different things. These are 3 different terms, all of which refer to distinct positions and distinct studies. You will understand in a little bit, but just keep in mind, you're going to have to pay close attention to which terms are used where, okay? Psychomagician. Well.
Howdy, Mr. L.
Let's go. Okay, let's go.
And I'm sure lots of people in your chat might feel weird about this one, but master's in clinical psychology, where I'm going to be specializing in forensics in teens specifically, but it's a child and youth clinical psych program.
Hugely. I don't necessarily, because I was kind of looking at that as a road to, well, does this justify someone expressing opinions about the efficacy of certain clinical treatments in the case of psychology? That's why I reduced to YouTube. So the requirements for it kind of consistent, but very varied along like I was looking both in Canada and the United States, because there's a very significant crossover obviously now at this point between, at the very least, the United States and Canada, because of how large the Twitch audience and the YouTube audience is in the United States for most of these people. So it's very difficult to tell whether that also justifies the service that she is trying to provide. Also, the service is horrendously overpriced for basically doing something that I can do myself. Because we can just go, and I don't think I want to do that because I have searched out my own therapist on there, and I don't know what cookies will be in question. We can just go to the American Psychological Association website, and they have a list of therapists and all of that jazz. And I can go and look at that, and I can see the stuff they put forward onto this database that they are good at, what their allyships are, and all of those things. And I can use that as a basis to begin to figure out who to talk to. And I don't need someone to do that for me, because the point of the database is that a layperson can access it.
Can you explain to me? I don't know, what is a psychometrician?
Yeah.
Violence says, isn't psychometry that weird thing where people touch things and see visions? No, you are actually correct. In fact, President Sunday is going to dive into that in just a minute.
Yeah, nobody knows. It's very obscure. So it's actually one of the few areas in the field that's not, it doesn't actually have a college body yet. So I can't like be a licensed psychometrician yet.
I kind of feel like this should be the end of the discussion right here. Because I can't be a licensed psychometrician because there's no body. Okay. And in the internal Twitter argument that's been going on over the last couple of days, someone suggested looking up psychometrician jobs in Alberta, and I did. And there is one currently, but for the posting for the government of Alberta for a psychometrician. I'm getting confused about the terms at this point, which is fair because this isn't my field. It shouldn't be fair for her. But at any rate, there is a posting there, and it requires a master's degree, but it does not specify that the master's degree is in psychometry or whatever the hell we're talking about.
It's basically like if you get the training or you have a job titled psychometrician, you're considered a psychometrician. So it's basically people specialized in administering psychological tests. So tests that you...
Note, this clip right here is incredibly important, and we'll revisit it in a second. Notice that she says here that there isn't a licensing body for psychometricians, and then she claims that you are considered a psychometrician if you are working a job doing, where you are filling the role of a psychometrician, which she's not clear about that. Keep that in mind.
Need specific training for is going to include things like IQ testing, neuropsychological testing, so testing for like brain injuries and stuff like that through cognitive testing rather than just MRIs alone. And I'm trained in specifically forensic assessment as well, so determining risk levels of offenders if they're going to what we call recidivate, which is just reoffend when they get released. So that's what a psychometrician does. We run a bunch of tests and diagnoses, and usually we work in conjunction with a psychologist who then typically they would be diagnosing. However, I'm going into clinical psych, so I kind of...
Yeah, Imran's exactly correct. It's not this, the administration is... a psychometrist administers the tests, and a psychometricians create and interpret the data that the test collects. So these are two distinct roles. They are not interchangeable, which not so erudite cops to in a later tweet that's put in the video. But let's go on.
The reason I did psychometry was so that I was a well-informed psychologist and I could kind of do it myself. As a psychologist, I try to steer away from like trying to advocate strongly for major social changes because I recognize that I'm probably not the most informed. I can give you my opinion.
As a psychologist,
opinion, but it's not my professional opinion, it's my personal opinion, right?
In a later stream entitled Confronting Controversy, in response to people on Reddit saying she had misrepresented her credentials, she explains that the title of the stream was a decision not of her but of Destiny's editor, August, and that she reached out and had the title corrected to "A psychometrician reacts to Destiny's tweets, not a psychologist." She then points to a comment under the video where she insists that she is not a psychologist, but a psychometrist, and to get it right.
Okay, so the issue is, so the first thing that she's concerned about is, this is not the actual link. So at some point when I'm talking to Destiny, I fuck up in the middle of it, and I say that I'm a psychologist.
The difficult thing.
Yeah, I agree. That's the problem though, is like as a psychologist, I tried
Right there. So as a psychologist, So that's the first contention. Okay, so there it was. As a psychologist, So yeah, that was a slip up. Basically what I'd say to that is it's easy to swap words. I was jumping between talking about actual psychologists and then jumping back to myself and talking about psychology as a field. But if you guys remember, when this original video was released, it was listed as a psychologist suggests, and I reached out to August directly and asked that it be changed, and it has been changed here. So this original video, when it was released, said psychologist. I'm not going to release the DMs because I don't put DMs on screen.
For real? It's okay. We'll wait. We'll wait it out. Hold on. I'll change it. Don't worry, everybody. What the hell? There we go. Dun 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 dun. Harry Potter ad. God damn it. Dun 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 dun. Bum bum.
I'm getting sick to death of the Harry Potter or the Hogwarts Legacy discourse. I really am. This is not the hill to die on, but that's a different subject.
Bum bum ba da da na 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 da da na 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 da 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 ba da na 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 da ba da na 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 ba da na 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 ba na na na. Socked on left. Thank you very much for the Prime sub. Thank you very, very much. All right, let's do this. Let's continue the video now that the ad is over. Let's do it. I'm gonna rewind just to make sure nobody misses a single bit of this, okay?
And it has been changed here. So this original video, when it was released, said psychologist. I'm not gonna release the DMs because I
Daedalus, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Deeply appreciate
I wonder who that could be.
that.
don't put DMs on screen unless I absolutely must. But basically this used to say psychologist. I messaged Destiny directly and was like, hey, just so you know, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a psychometrist. Don't want to be claiming anything that I don't have.
Before reverting again to saying,
There's another video where I have a top comment. It's not this one. It's another conversation. Where, okay, so psychometrician, so psychologist. So you can see it was originally labeled as a psychologist. And I went and said, hey, August, I'm not a psychologist. I'm a psychometrician. Get it right.
Actually, that comment says I'm a psychometrist, which is odd. So keep in mind, a psychometrist and a psychologist and a psychometrician are three distinct and different credentials. Those are three different things. A psychometrician is not a psychometrist. A psychometrist and a psychometrician are not psychologists. And all three of these is not psychometry. Psychometry is a bunk pseudoscience. So psychometry is when you touch an object and you can psychically read where it has been in the past.
And I've said this several times already, but I'd absolutely watch a show where Not So Erudite touches an object and psychically creates a psychological assessment from it. And this is where things get really interesting.
No, it's confusing, right? But that's the thing. It's confusing to you. Now, let me ask you something real quick. I just want to be clear. I just want to draw a parallel here. RN, MO, MD. These are three different things, okay? Can anybody in chat tell me what the difference is between an MO, an RN, and an MD in the medical field? Yeah, that's right. Most lay
In fairness, since the age of 18 and starting with kidney disease, I have spent an obscene amount of time in doctors' offices and hospitals, and I can't recall once ever meeting a medical officer, an MO. So that's I don't think I can't even begin to think where I met one. So
people would not know the difference between those three things. Yeah, people know RN. An MD is a medical doctor. An RN is a registered nurse, and an MO is a what's it called? Oh fuck! Now I'm gonna mess that one up too. I'm not even gonna remember this one because I'm not in the medical field. It's a fuck. It's an osteo. Fuck. Medical. A medical officer. Or is that correct? No, that's not correct. Doctors of osteopathy. Sorry, that's a DO. Yes, an MO is a medical officer, and a DO is a doctor of osteopathy. All four of those things are different, okay? Sorry, I meant a DO. Yeah, DO. I was getting MO and DO mixed up. So these are confusing to the average person, right? The average person doesn't know what these titles entitle, but they are drastically different. An RN has different abilities and different credentials than an MO, and then a DO, and then an MD.
And all of these things, people have different legal obligations and responsibilities too. Nurses can't do diagnoses, for example, that they can't without a nurse practitioner license, which is an entirely different thing, prescribe medicine.
But if you were one of these things, you would not forget which one that you are. Can you imagine if you were a medical doctor, you would never mistake yourself for a registered nurse? That is like, it's not possible. That is your credential. You had to go to school for years to get that specific credential. So to the average person, to the lay person out there, even to somebody who's relatively, knowledgeable about the medical field, like I don't work in medicine, but I know the basics of the difference between a registered nurse and a medical doctor. But even myself wouldn't be able to, like, off the cuff tell you the exact difference in jurisdiction between these titles. And this is one of the problems that can be present in credentials, and also why it's important to be honest and upfront with what credentials you have. Does that make sense? Even between a CNA, an RN, or an LPN, the people who have those credentials would never mess those up. That's the thing. That's something to pay attention. So what she is doing is like a nurse saying she is a doctor while being distracted. Yes, but there's more to it than that, because it's not just one incident of misspeaking. It's in this clip, she is misrepresenting even what she said. Here, she just said she's a psychometrician, and in the comment that she is showing on the screen, it says psychometrist. Which would be like if you had on the screen a message that you sent to somebody saying that you were a DO, a doctor of osteopathy, and then but then you were, while you were talking, even though you had that message on the screen, you claimed to be a MD. Anyway, let's continue.
And said, hey, August, I'm not a psychologist. I'm a psychometrician. Get it right.
See? She says psychometrician, but then on the screen it says psychometrist.
This struck me as odd. You see, a psychometrician, as opposed to a psychometrist, is a scientist authorized to create and validate psychometric tests, whereas a psychometrist merely administers them under the supervision of a trained psychologist.
You see the distinction there? A psychometrician is somebody who is qualified to create tests, to generate psychological tests. Whereas a psychometrist is somebody who can only give the test to somebody that was created by somebody else while being supervised by a higher doctor. Do you understand the difference here? This is why I was drawing the comparison to the registered nurse, MD, MO, and DO.
I'm not even sure that a nurse is the right distinction, too. This is kind of more akin to a medical technician who does something like a phlebotomist or a X-ray tech or someone who conducts MRIs. These are skilled professionals, to be sure, in this particular operation of this equipment. But this would be kind of misrepresenting. This would be like if the X-ray tech came and took your X-ray and then turned around and interpreted it. The X-ray tech takes the X-ray and then they pass it off to a doctor who then interprets the X-ray. As a matter of fact, if you've ever sat in a hospital and tried to ask the technician who is doing a test on you, like they will almost always refrain from giving their opinion, even though they, like, for instance, someone who's doing an ultrasound has looked at the ultrasound screen for years and years and years and years by that point and has a pretty good idea what they're looking at. They cannot do a diagnosis. There's a distinction there. It's a very important one. There's a very important distinction of responsibilities and accountability. And that's really the problem here, is that this fudges accountability in such a huge way.
Let's continue.
For Kyla to be either a psychometrician or a psychometrist, and these are significantly different, she would require some credential to the effect that she is a certified psychometrician or a psychometrist. This would take the form of a literal piece of paper on which the appropriate title would have been printed and referred to specifically, without room for ambiguity. To qualify for that credential, she would have spoken to supervisors, curated her course load in school, and filled out an application for it specifically. It is therefore unthinkable that she would simply forget what the title of her credential is.
See, what President Sunday here is saying that nobody who had to go to school specifically to get a thing would ever mix that up, let alone mix it up over and over and over again. There is like somebody who's a registered nurse they had to do a whole process to earn the title of registered nurse. Same thing goes for somebody who is a doctor of osteopathy. Same thing of somebody who is a doctor of medicine. These are independent tracks that you can't just, it's not like you worked as a shift manager and now you're a lead manager. Those aren't the same, it's not the same level of difference. There's a significant difference. Is what President Sunday is explaining here.
Psychometrician is a role with...
Well, guys, with how many UFOs have been getting shot down in the last couple of days, we might all have alien implants soon.
Supervisory authority, requiring a master's degree at least, and there is no category of registration for psychometrists in Canada, so it is impossible for her to be one of these as well. When pressed, Kyla has resorted to several strategies in her defense. First, she has claimed to be able to justify her self-description as a psychometrician by reference to a test she co-authored for use by the government. This does not grant her the credential of psychometrician or indeed even psychometrist. Let us refer to the Government of Canada's description of these two roles. Quote, psychometricians develop psychological tests, scales, and measures, and may administer or apply and interpret such tests, scales, and measures. Psychometrists administer and score psychological tests, usually under the supervision of a registered psychologist, unquote. Now, Kyla may well have co-authored what she has called an in-house youth addictions measure, whatever that is. She has not, to my knowledge, made its name public, and I have been unable to find any reference to it, or to her for that matter, on any public record. But nonetheless, having done so does not authorize her to...
I suspect that in her capacity is... no, NORAD is Stargate. I suspect in her capacity for the company that comes up later in this that she probably did create a test. but I'm not entirely certain that that company is exactly as credible as we might want to believe, and we'll see why
To
later.
develop or validate tests for institutional use with the authority of a psychometrician.
So in this message that President Sunday received, and also in
Oh no, I absolutely believe that our alien overlords could probably do a much more interesting job.
the video that we saw, she claimed to be a psychometrician. A psychometrician, which is allowed to create new tests in psychological assessment, which is a pretty major claim. And she claims that she's able to do this because she also claims that she co-published a study. But co-publishing a study, even if you did actually co-publish a study, doesn't actually give you a diploma for the thing that you're claiming. It doesn't actually give you a certification. Like, imagine the claim here would be like saying you're a doctor because your name was published on a study of medicine. Even if you contributed to a
This is a fair comparison, yes.
study of medicine, that doesn't make you a doctor. A doctor is a specific credential. Does that make sense? It's actually worse. Check DMs. Oh, shit. Can I show this? Am I able to show this, President Sunday? Can I actually show this on screen? Let me wait and be clear. Yes, I can. Okay. So this is a message from Not So Erudite early last year. I am also a trained psychometrist, which is a graduate degree. I have completed a full 2-study thesis that was published and went on to receive a gold at a nationwide conference for research. I also completed research for the government of Alberta, specifically with the province's health provider, and created an internal assessment for a technology addiction that is used by health providers. I've also worked on several other research projects and am a third author on a project on consent. But please continue to explain
And she's super humble, too.
to me how I'm a fake academic. So now here she is claiming again that she's a psychometrist, and that a psychometrist is attained by simply having a graduate degree. So she's made a lot of hard claims about this. Let's find out where this goes. Oh my God, my understanding is that you have a bachelor's in psychology. Yes, she claims to have a bachelor's in psychology. Oh my God. Holy shit. She does not have a graduate degree. She has a graduate diploma, which is a different thing. Oh my God. So she's simultaneously claiming she has a bachelor's in psychology, which she doesn't have, and she has a graduate degree when she only has a graduate diploma. A graduate diploma is a 1-year, right? Versus a 2 to 4 year program? Sorry, am I misunderstanding something here? My understanding is that you have a bachelor's in psychology. Yes, I'm also a trained psychometrist, which is a graduate degree. This is the problem. She doesn't have a graduate degree. She has a graduate diploma. Okay, so she's proven that she does not have a graduate degree. Okay, so she's not telling the truth about how much studying she's actually done and what she's actually licensed with. She does have a bachelor's in psychology, but she does not have a graduate degree. She has a graduate diploma.
Yeah, Imran, I was kind of waiting until we got to the relevant point. When she shows up in chat, we'll actually get to that.
Important to get that right. Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm getting things right here because I want to understand this video. Let's continue.
She has engaged in something that she has described, again without citation, as equivalent to the work of a psychometrician as a singular event that confers no ongoing authority or title to her. She can also not claim to have been temporarily operating in the functional capacity of a psychometrician for the very reason that this in-house youth addictions measure was co-authored in all likelihood by either a colleague of roughly equivalent authority or a supervisor. We may never know, but it's immaterial. Kyla...
Did she ever, out of curiosity, did she ever provide this evidence? Did she ever provide the evidence that she was published? Or did she just dodge that? Without a graduate degree, you cannot get most jobs under the psychology umbrella. So she never provided this. She never provided proof that she was even on the study. Holy shit. People are pointing out that you cannot get most jobs under the psychology umbrella with a graduate diploma because it's not the same thing as a degree.
Again, has no authority as a psychometrician, and when she has insisted that she is one, she is lying. Another strategy Kyla has deployed has been to argue that psychometrist and psychometrician are terms used colloquially in the field to refer to the same thing. This is incorrect, but moreover, she has demonstrated knowledge of the difference between these two, again to defend her dubious credentials.
This is a tweet of her saying, I am currently working as a psychometrist I'm working as a psychometrist currently, and in the past also worked as a psychometrician. So she does know the difference. And as we know, as President Sunday already showed, he showed the official Canadian website that shows that there is a distinction between these two positions.
Her story has not stayed straight. The real problem, however, is that she is not authorized to self-describe even as a psychometrist. Why? Because, as stated earlier, the category of registration for psychometrists in the province of Alberta where she obtained her degree doesn't exist. Which brings us to...
Yeah, Cedar, that's definitely a approach that someone could have used. Particularly because you're talking about what is a licensed term. Like, I am taking authority. Like, for example, when you talked about the Will in his channel panel, and I mentioned that historian is not a protected term. It's not a licensed term. It is. He didn't need to take this route. Like, this didn't have to be a thing.
To her third strategy, in which Kyla claims to have a graduate...
There are plenty of sussy people running around on Twitch and YouTube saying sussy things. But doing so under the color of authority is a lot. Like, that takes it from, oh, this is weird, to, uh-oh, this might be a problem.
Diploma in psychometry.
And then you have, I have never heard of it, a graduate certificate?
Graduate diploma in psychometry.
Now,
notice that? That person who is asking her says, I've never heard of this. And then she says a graduate diploma. That was the thing that I was tripping up on earlier, because it's easy to trip up on it. There's a difference between a degree and a diploma. It's like lawyering your language here, while also simultaneously still trying to claim authority over psychological claims.
Psychometry, as defined by Wikipedia, is, quote, a form of extrasensory perception characterized by the claimed ability to make relevant associations from an object of unknown history by making physical contact with that object, unquote. What she means to say.
Now, to be clear, I and Hetman both do not necessarily take paranormal claims as automatic bunk. They're entertaining as long as you're not doing anything to abuse people through them. Like, I'm going to contact your dead grandfather, blah, 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 and charge you $50. That would be bad. But, like, it's fun to be scared. So ghost stories are a lot of fun, and both of us enjoy quote unquote true paranormal stories. Like this isn't necessarily in and of itself a horrible place to be. But if you're going to claim to be a thing, particularly a psychometrician, psychometrist, uh, psychomagician, whatever, be consistent. Um, that just seems like a really easy mistake to make. Only if you're lying.
Is that she has a graduate diploma in psychometrics, which is concerned with the measurement of psychological constructs, IQ tests, personality tests, etc. No diploma would have psychometry written on it, and the reason why Kyla frequently confuses the writing on her own credential, which she must have worked and applied for over a period of many months at least, is because no such diploma exists. Again, because there is no registry for psychometrists in Alberta. Which begs the question, what qualifications does Kyla have? On her Discord server, Kyla posted a link to a website called Mental Help. What is Mental Help? In the wake of the ongoing COVID pandemic, the Alberta government provided a one-time grant funding of up to $25 million in the years 2020 to 2021 for eligible projects and services to enhance community.
Yeah, you gotta get that pandemic bag. Get that pandemic bag.
Mental health and addiction recovery supports and services.
Here we go. Here we go.
Kyla won this grant to create Mental Help.
And so during COVID, we heard about this COVID grant that the government was giving out, kind of predicting that there would be a mental health crisis around COVID. And so just the CEO of Adira approached a couple of us staff and was like, anyone got ideas? We can maybe make a secondary program. And I put forward the idea of mental help. It wasn't named anything then, but I was just like, well, we could do this. It's a little bit based out of what I did actually my undergrad thesis on, which is like the research that I did. And we were lucky enough to be selected by the government to run the program for a year.
Which promised to deliver a series of 18 videos in which, quote, Counselor Kyla Turner covers topics across the gamut of mental health, from depression and anxiety to addiction and substance abuse. Each video covers a different topic and seeks to offer the viewer a rounded knowledge, therapeutic resources, and practical tools to maintain their own mental health. Through social media, video resources, and in-person seminars with Edmonton organizations, Mental Help aims to educate our community about the preconditions for addiction and arm individuals of all ages and genders with tools to identify and prevent a worsened mental health. Unquote. Despite...
Now we're about to go on a very wild journey here, so buckle up.
Kyla claiming herself in September 2021 that the full program will be available within that same month.
Our full program is going to be available September of 2021.
None of the aforementioned resources have materialized. In direct conversation between her and myself, Kyla has claimed to have completed her end of the work and blamed her company for failing to deliver. An uncharitable observer might remark that this was right before she started.
President Sunday says, I'm going to be updating this part. It's actually even stranger. Apparently close to 10 videos were made, but have all been privated. I do not dare to speculate why they have been privated, but it appears that their disappearance corresponds with her sudden success on TikTok and YouTube. Bruh. Bro. Oh no. Do you guys remember in the State of the Union when Biden was talking about how they're gonna prosecute the fucking, the people who misused pandemic funds? I wonder if Canada is going to do anything like that, and I sure hope that every T and I is dotted and crossed. So I'm going to read that again so that we're clear here. President Sunday says, I need to do an update to this particular segment. It turns out it's a little stranger. Apparently close to 10 videos did initially appear, but have all been made private now. I dare not speculate why, but it appears that their disappearance corresponds with her success on TikTok and YouTube.
started seeing success on TikTok and received a massive boost in exposure by connecting with the very large channel Destiny on YouTube. In any case, the mental health website is, as of right now, defunct. Not a single in-person seminar has taken place. No booklets have been released. And despite creating video content for years for the not-so-erudite channels, quite possibly facilitated by equipment purchased with the grant money, Kyla has not released any video content for mental health to date.
So that's where the correction needs to go in, because it turns out that they were published at one point, but they are no longer available. Am I getting that correct? Let me know in chat if I'm correct on that correction.
Mental health has a YouTube channel.
In fairness to everyone involved, disinformation is obscured pretty significantly at this point.
A few months ago, it was privated. Its description now refers to itself in the past tense. Quote, mental health was a one-time project by a DERA recovery center breaking down mental health topics in 13 videos, unquote.
Let me check. Let me do this real quick. Let me see. Oh. Oh, okay. I'll take your word on that particular part. Wait, this is from another video? This is from, wait, what's the timestamp I need to go to for this? So this is the podcast? Yeah, but it's an hour long. Oh, you want me to listen to it myself? Is there a timestamp for the correction? Oh, just the very beginning.
Check, check. Mic check.
Holy fuck. My ears. Holy shit.
Mic check.
It's the Mike Show. Hello, and welcome to the Mike Show. Today we have a very special guest.
She's 1 minute in, okay.
We're taking off.
Please to this world. Like, were you a big Twitch streamer fan, and you're like, I want to do this, or you just kind of?
No, not at all. I never watched Twitch streams ever. I still don't watch them that much, to be fully clear. I'm more of a YouTube consumer. How did I get into this? It's kind of a long-winded story of essentially I was working for I was program directing a mental health program that's still kind of in the works of the tech.
No, Toronto? I'm actually not conversant enough with Canada's particular colloquial prejudices against one another to know if that's a horrible thing. It's not like being from, for instance, Green Bay.
Sides now, just cleaning it up, but it's called Mental Help. I came up with the name. It's not really creative, but it is what it is. So yeah, I started with a company called Mental Help. And
See, she qualifies it as a company here, but then qualifies the company in question as a DERA. Like, she's not even consistently presenting. Hey, Zokalix. She's not even consistently presenting how this project comes out and how this project is defined. And I can't help but wonder if that's a strategy, honestly, because that kind of seems to be a strategy of obfuscation. So that by the time we sort all of this out, no one's quite sure what has actually happened, and it's entirely possible that Not So Erudite is actually touching objects and reading their psychic histories. And inconsistencies are kind of something. She tries to present as a very intelligent person, but she doesn't necessarily, like, she has not constructed her fraud very well. Like, say what you will about Trump, but he's fairly masterful in how he constructs his frauds. Like, he just goes at his lies consistently and pretty unendlessly, and he'll just keep going and going and going and going and going. This is sort of all over the place, which means that anyone who cares to look, and in fairness, she probably assumes that most people won't care to look.
And social media was a really integral part of it. I had a social media manager. They weren't quite doing what we needed them to do. They ended up leaving. And I was like, I'll just try taking it over for now while we wait and try to find somebody. Things kind of got scuffed. I kept doing TikToks and all this sort of stuff. And then I started playing around on my private TikTok to see what works on the algorithm, basically. And my TikToks took off and my works did not. But unfortunately, all the TikToks that were taking off were like the spicy stuff, which was what I was fearing. I was like, oh man, I'm pretty sure the main mental health stuff that's going to be popular is going to be like really like spicy stuff. So yeah, that is what took off. Got into TikTok, and then I was like, basically my husband's like, why don't you try like streaming a little bit? You might be able to like make some money. Give it a shot. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. So I did some live streams on TikTok. That was super fun. Then I did a couple of live streams on Twitch. And then my husband's like, there's a streamer named Destiny, and he like basically will talk to anyone as long as you're interesting enough. So you should tell him what you do for work. And he sent me a couple of conversations Stephen had had with other psychology people that I was not super happy about. And I emailed him, and he said yes. And
I was just using Trump as an example.
I went from like 200 followers. I basically in 3 days went from 0 to 2,000 followers on Twitch.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, basically when you win the lottery, you may as well like go forward. It seemed like an opportunity that so few people get that like, why would I ever like not
Okay.
do this? Hold on. Sounds like I'm muted on my side. I'm just going to check and see why that.
Let me try and establish a timeline here. Get pandemic funding from the government to make mental health videos during COVID. Your social media manager retires, and instead of hiring a new social media manager with the pandemic funds that you got, you just kind of decide to become a streamer. Am I getting that correctly? Am I getting the timeline correctly? Is there something, maybe there's something that I'm missing there, but that's definitely a very interesting timeline. Like, what am I missing? Am I missing something? She just said it. I got money from the government during COVID to make videos. Then my social media manager retired, and I realized that I could, and she describes it as spicy. It would be really interesting to see what spicy TikToks were most successful on her channel.
And here we go.
Take a look. Does anybody have her TikTok channel? I wonder if we can look on TikTok at her most popular ones. Is there a way to do that? Red pill video, I don't know. Men get missed in relationships. So this is the channel right here. So let's look at the most popular TikToks that have gone on here. My Fall from Feminism Part 2. This is 22K.
This is part 2 of basically reasons why I chose to no longer identify as a feminist. So in part 1, I outlined essentially some reasons that led me to have
this whole thing gets sussy.
The feminist movement, and I went through kind of one major point that I realized was completely false that was being peddled by some areas within feminism. Obviously, one piece of misinformation about sports isn't going to be enough to make me leave an entire ideology. That would be silly. What actually really drove me away from feminism fundamentally was how feminism appears in pop culture. Something you need to understand about the difference between academic and pop feminism.
Say, Pippa. So here we have a thing. how feminism appears in pop culture is not what feminism is. Like, this is kind of seeding a very essential point. This is kind of seeding a very central point, though, about how we interact and understand things. Yeah, we're going to be seeing not so erudite leaving the left soon.
Academics in general are oftentimes pretty distanced and misinformed about what broad culture thinks about things. The same way, like in businesses, how middle management oftentimes doesn't really understand what frontline workers go through. As such, the more I got ingrained into more pop culture and understanding how feminism was influencing kind of the
These transitions bother me too, but that's more of an artistic thing that I'm probably not qualified to talk about.
common person, I became completely uncomfortable with identifying with it anymore. Tensions I have with pop feminism is number one, it sometimes acts as a veil for just blatant misandry. A lot of feminists will try to deny this. They'll point to feminists who don't do this, but the problem is that you have to police your own, and there is a massive company of people who utilize feminism to justify basically tearing men down. On top of this, number two, there's been an active movement towards assassinating all of masculinity. Now, masculinity and femininity in my mind are archetypes. They don't represent what men and women must be, but they represent broad understandings within our culture of the feminine and the masculine elements to nature. Feminism targets all elements of masculinity. While I'm completely okay with challenging toxic masculine traits and trying to erode some of the damage and the problems that it creates, there are positive elements to masculinity that are
Yeah, what she's really doing right here is just furiously shoveling straw into her straw man.
completely dismissed. It's kind of like you've thrown out the baby with the bathwater. My third contention with feminism came in the form of basically how feminists often try to act like feminism is the cure-all antidote for most societal problems. Kind of the same reason we get sick of listening to chiropractors, because chiropractors try to act like they can cure everything with chiropractic.
I'm not entirely certain I would compare chiropractic to modernism in philosophy, but okay.
Rather than focusing on the scopes of things that they can actually fix. I think feminism has gotten too generalized and too broad, and basically too big for their britches. Fourth, it was kind of...
But you're not talking about feminism. You're talking about a conception of feminism that you invented for yourself that doesn't actually refer to anything. Like, aha, I have tilted at this windmill that I happened to build all by myself. And it's a really crappy windmill and I knocked it over. But, okay, congratulations. Like, I conquered the teddy bear. Yay.
Even the women's
That is certainly a choice. To say that feminists have gotten too big for their britches, that is certainly a choice of language.
DemonMama is fantastic, just as an aside. Just excellent.
Wow. If I don't know, is that a, like, what does that even qualify as? Holy shit. Everyone, no, I can't. There's literally nothing I could do to parody that. It's as bad as it, that's just so funny.
2017 March. I've watched a lot of the speeches and I kind of came to realize that a lot of feminists don't own the full extent of what their position actually argues for. A lot of these people talk about dismantling the patriarchy, and I don't think they realize what would be the cost of actually fully dismantling these things.
Okay, so this is a 22.1K. Here is a, oh, here's...
Yep, there we have it. Not so erudite, mounted on her donkey, riding gloriously into battle. Okay, Papa. All right, Avery is indicating that he very much would like to go out for a moment, so we're going to take a short break. I'll be back soonish. Give me a second to put on the music. Okay, we are back.
One. Here's a 100,000. Here is a 100,000 K view one. Let's check out this one.
Thank you so much for saying this. I have definitely spoken with women who would basically...
Also, if you notice in chat down here, Aiko is regretting having a disagreement with President Sunday on stream earlier in the day about this whole thing.
give me the argument that the reason why they're not like kind and gentle and compassionate towards men when they reject them anymore is because men will often take that kindness and compassion as a cue that there might still be interest. They just need to push more. And look, ladies, I get it. Like rejecting somebody and then having them keep trying can be frustrating because it's really awkward rejecting people and you want them to stop putting you in that awkward position. But we have to remember, number one, being the rejector versus the rejectee is always a nicer position psychologically. And number two, it's really sad that they're getting so little kindness and compassion that they misread all forms of it as interest. And God,
I would not entirely comfortable making that assessment either. Some people just keep going. These don't feel like the kind of, these generalizations don't feel like the kind of assessments that someone with a professional certification would make.
it makes me so sad. It basically means that they don't think anyone is going to be kind to them unless they have a purpose behind their kindness. It should probably go without saying that the way that you solve men misreading compassion as romantic interest isn't to be kind to them less often. Thank you so much for saying.
Also, something interesting over here, if you all can see over here, it says over here, wait, this is the mental help account.
Yep, this is a thing.
Mental help says, can you tell us more about assertiveness? You've mentioned it as an important safety skill for women, but she already admitted that she is the only person working on the mental help social media accounts. So that means she's boosting her own personal videos with the mental help account. I didn't even know about this. I just discovered this in real time. She was right here. This is a mental help video, is the top comment on her video. And
yeah, to be clear, Cal, there is a very serious issue with how men are socialized in our current society. And breaking out of that, though, is not the responsibility of how women treat men. It's men's responsibility to take accountability for what they were taught and to change. Yes, I think there is some truth to the concept that men do not receive compliments as a regular thing. So it's not a very common thing to tell a guy that they're good at something or that they look good that day or whatever. Like these things, these affirmations that might be more common for a woman, even if they don't necessarily seem genuine to that woman, just simply don't happen for a lot of men. And that's definitely a thing. And that is a flaw in how men are socialized and treated. I've talked extensively with my therapist about this, about how men basically, in most traditional masculinity, have two modes of expression, of being angry or with the other one comes off the top of my head. But there is a whole lot of truth to the concept that there is a crisis of masculinity. However, it is not caused by feminism. It's very much caused by the disconnect between the world that men are presented by the conception of masculinity and how the world actually is. And there is a disconnect between the needs of men and how they are treated and expected in that paradigm of masculinity that we're talking about. Those are things those are social issues that don't quite run to psychology, I think, but they're not. That's not on women. It's not on women to make men introspective. It's not. It's not their job. They have enough going on being women.
This is from last year in January. That is certainly an interesting decision. I wonder how many...
Yeah, to be clear, about the whole issue about men, ContraPoints does an absolutely fantastic video on it, which I think is titled Men. I'm 90% certain. Yeah, it is entitled Men.
Of these are like that.
If he's the sort of person to punch a wall because you angered him, he's not sparing you.
The dating rejection paradigm. Hold on, let's see. My falling out from feminism, 55.9 thousand.
This is a super great question. I'm going to caveat this all by saying this is my personal experience with feminism. Obviously, I think other people...
Wait, so this is just another one like this. Also, there's probably a few caveats.
There is the short form content of TikTok and Twitter, although that apparently is going away on Twitter. The short form content of TikTok and Twitter, to a certain degree, encourages reductive presentations of arguments. We can choose not to indulge in that, though. We can choose to make our things more nuanced and to make Twitter threads, for instance, or to make multiple part TikToks where we accept in good faith the position that is offered to us by, for example, say Simone Baudelaire. Accept in good faith and not pretend that there is some great gulf between how feminism is discussed in academics and how it's interpreted in pop culture. Like, if you did that in a historical paper, what she just did here, you'd fail it in a undergrad class or even a graduate class.
This is not a commentary on trans athletes in any way. Uh-oh. 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 President Sunday says, wait a minute, that means that she hid the mental health videos and then used mental health as a brand to boost her own private channel. So hold on. Let me just, I just want to make sure we get the timeline from her in order with this information that we've just added now. So she received the money. The social media manager left. She didn't complete the full run of the videos and instead opted to become a TikTok influencer while using the account that was funded by the government of Canada to boost her own personal brand. Am I getting this correct? And she was boosting her brand in which she claims that she promotes what is this? I mean, I don't want to make any claims about this, but she claims that she stopped being a feminist because of trans athletes. Oh my God.
And
Let's see what some of the more recent big ones are. Uh-oh. Hold on, I want to see this.
So a common issue that a lot of women are going to raise is, well, I said no, assertively and firmly. What do you do if they keep bugging and pursuing? Because that certainly is a circumstance that happens for a lot of women, and it can be a little intimidating. The skill I really like to teach clients is about levels of boundaries. So I would basically argue you can have a boundary at level 1 or at level 10. right? A level 10 boundary is going to be used in certain circumstances that a level 1 boundary isn't going to be sufficient in. So if you're in a situation where you've said no and it seems like they're not getting the point, or they feel they need to push further, increase the level of boundary. What you need to remember is that a lot of men continue to pursue because while women say, I've said no, back off, other women also say, pursue me, try harder. I think it's probably...
Okay, wait, hold on. I'm sorry.
Now, this could come down to, again, short-form content being reductive. But this is really yikesy. Really yikesy.
Sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but is this not just, isn't this just, like, victim blaming? If you're saying that other women say no but don't mean it, and therefore you need to be more firm than you already are, isn't that just kind of victim blaming?
Yeah, Pippa, there's very much a point where you go, wait, no means no. Also, if you're going to make an argument that there are 10 levels of boundaries, you probably need to outline exactly what those levels are. Like, I don't know if I would necessarily say I'm setting 10 levels of boundaries. I also don't necessarily, I'm not a woman. I don't deal with these problems. I don't necessarily think it's efficacious to have a 10-step program to deal with someone who is aggressively, possibly threatening or stalking you. That would have to be a conversation I would have to have with someone who is a woman or experiences life presenting as a woman.
Like, I'm sorry, maybe I'm misinterpreting. I don't want to be uncharitable. Like I said, the only thing I know about this person outside of what we have learned now is that she did a gigantic stream defending a massive content creator mocking my partner's suicide attempt, which is certainly interesting.
Important to also note that level 10 is never abusive behavior. What could those escalating boundaries look like? Well,
For me, level 10 includes calling the police.
Can start with, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, to, hey, I said I'm not interested. Please let me walk away. To, I'm going to walk away now, I'm not interested. To, I have said no, I am not interested. So a common issue that a lot of...
Okay. So let's see what some of these other viral ones. I just want to get a feel for the type of content that's being promoted on this channel that is also, keep in mind, being...
Aiko is gradually losing her mind in chat.
Promoted, being cross-promoted by the other account. Let's look at this one. This is a 65,000 view one.
Dating apps for men is basically like playing on nightmare mode. Most of the women on there are bots. The women who aren't bots are oftentimes so nervous to meet people because they've had such bad experiences that they're extremely unlikely to go on a date with you. And also there's going to be like 2 or 3 gigachads who are just like natty freaks who take amazing photos, and most of the girls are just going to match with them. And let's be honest, taking photos is like really hard. It's a tricky thing to do, and if you don't have very many good photos, you're kind of fucked on dating app. And it's weird because I'm going to say it again, I don't actually think women select that dominantly just for looks alone. But in dating app land, that's mostly what they're picking based on. Here are better places to meet women.
Aiko says, what if you're already at a level 5 no? How many no levels do you have to be on? I don't know. You'll have to ask the psychometrologist, the psychometriciologist.
Yeah, I'll be watching Aiko probably.
The licensed, credentialed, degree diploma psychometrologist, Kyla.
Number 1, volunteering. Unsurprisingly, most volunteer positions are filled by women, especially nice, forward-thinking, caring women. Number 2, meet women at co-ed sports. You have a mutual hobby, it's an easy next date, and also you have kind of like a friendship way to like build rapport. Dating apps for men.
Okay, all right. So I'm getting the this is sort of like what I would call incel bait.
I did not watch the Vosh debate, Zokalix. I have been absorbing an awful lot of material in the past couple days on this anyway. I'm sure the more I find, the more angry I'll get. Yes, Eamon, let's really be clear about something here, because if you go into a situation with the expectation of making a relationship, it's going to color your interactions. And people will notice this and they will not reciprocate. Walk into a situation neutrally. Don't go in with an expectation. Don't have an agenda. Go into a situation, do the thing, be magnanimous to everyone in the environment. Be magnanimous to everyone in the environment. And that helps you forge better connections that lead in all kinds of directions, not just necessarily romantic. Like, be the kind of person that is interesting of your own accord and don't be looking for people to validate you in that way.
It's like, it's content that basically says, you know, bitches be lying, but in a nicer way. You know? It's like, it doesn't explicitly say that bitches be lying, but it's basically like, you know, dating apps, they're gonna look for the giga chads. I mean, she literally uses the memes of the incel community, the giga chad, this type of thing. It's like incel bait. I should check the comments on this one to make sure to see if
Dating apps for
the
men
mental health
is
thing shows up. I wonder if mental health has been promoting other videos on this channel, or if it was only on that one. I have a feeling that if we look through the comments for long enough, we would be able to find mental.
Yeah, that's probably a better way of putting it, Cedar Waxwing. You create more opportunities for interactions, which naturally expands your potential to form all kinds of relationships. Thank you. I stumbled over my words because this is not a field in which I am necessarily going to be able to explain things well.
Mental help in a lot of these comments, probably very early on. 10-letter name says, this is a genuine question. Feel free to shoot me down if I'm missing the point. At what point would we acknowledge that some dudes are actually just very fucked up and discuss how to navigate that scenario safely? Well, that's why I talk about self-defense on my channel, but I'm not going to talk about that right now because that...
I don't necessarily think it's wrong. I think this is incel light. I think this is an outer layer of that particular onion that Innuendo Studios describes that could take you in a very dark direction.
That would be a big distraction. There's a lot that I could say about that, but I'll do it in another segment. No offense to you, just I don't want to, you know, fly off the handle in the middle of this. I'm interested. I'm interested to see what other videos. Ooh, this one's a big one. This video has 208,000 views. So let's see this.
I'm 23. I can't drive. I've only just started renting.
Let me tell you about my husband and I, and compare and contrast us when we first met. When we met, we were both 22, and we were very different in essentially how far we were on the success train. He was a high school dropout. He'd spent all of his youth fighting chronic illness and depression and suicide. He had no license. He didn't have a high school diploma. I, on the other hand, managed all of my childhood dysfunction and family distress by numbing out and seeking value in academics. I was in the top 1% in my entire university.
Which is a shame because you're so disingenuous about them.
For GPA. I'd been driving since I was 16. By all extents and purposes, I looked like I had my life together and I was on the right path, and he looked like a total fuck up. Then we got into a relationship and we realized that while I was exceedingly well prepared for being a good academic and a good worker, I was not so good at doing mental health. I was not so good at being in a relationship. He, on the other hand, spent his entire adolescence battling to not kill himself and finding connection and relationship as a way to kind of stave off sadness. So while he was woefully underprepared and under-successful in academics, he was actually an incredible partner, and that was something I was severely lacking in. We kind of viewed it as basically, in our adolescence, we both trained for two different things. He trained to be mentally well and to be good in relationship, and I trained to be an exceedingly good student and a good worker. Now, both of these things are valuable. The issue is that our society views success as only the latter half that I mentioned. Both of these things are really valuable. And so I think if you're measuring yourself just by like the basic understanding of what success looks like, you're actually missing out on some of the most important parts of life. The people.
Yikes. Yikes. This is a very externalized view of success. I am big on, okay, let's talk. I was diagnosed at the age of 18 with kidney disease. Well, more accurately, Berger's disease. This is a very inconvenient time to have. I don't know if there's a convenient time to have an illness, but this is a kind of super weird spot to become ill. It colors my ability to do things. The most clear-cut cases, at the age of 18, I'm a senior in high school. I'm in a JROTC program. I have a command position. I'm doing fairly well academically. I am offered ROTC scholarships at a number of schools, contingent upon my ability to complete the Army's requirements. I go to this medical review board, that the Department of Defense Medical Review Board, that is required of everyone to do a physical and assessment. They find this problem, and I start down this road of diagnosing the problem and treating it. It turns out to be a chronic condition that has no cure, no known cause. I'm going off to college at the exact same time. You're starting a major chapter in your life. It derails my ability to do what I want to do. It derails my career path. Eventually, my kidneys fail. I have to go on dialysis. And everything I plan to do is just gone. But I never consider myself a failure. It's not that I'm not sufficiently able to do things because I'm not dedicated or I'm not capable. It's because we set a level of expectations for things here, and then you add complications that everyone experiences, and eventually those complications become insurmountable. The world does not well set up for people who have chronic conditions. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to interact in this world. It's very difficult to work. I'm on dialysis now, and I know people who go on dialysis, get treated for 3 or 4 hours, pop up and go to work, and I'm just wiped for the rest of the day. You exist on kind of a different plane than other people. It is the most analogous thing I can think of in my life to marginalization. It's not the same thing, to be sure, but there are a lot of ways in which it separates me from the way we're expected to interact with the world. But it doesn't make me a failure, and this almost smacks of disability porn to me. What her husband might have endured is incredible. That's not fair. What he endured, but take the claim at face value, is incredible. It doesn't make him a failure. He is interacting with the world in a way that is not assumed by normal operation. So one of the lessons that I have learned throughout my life is not to externalize success. Don't give people a lead on you that they can define your life by, because they don't necessarily understand it. You alone understand your life. This entire thing struck me as chronic and terminal are two different things, Cal. Chronic is a manageable condition that, if left untreated, will kill you. Terminal is like very different. It's a very different implication there. It might be very similar. I don't necessarily always feel similar about those things. Like, I feel like there's a degree of separation that it allows me to empathize, but not necessarily puts me in the same spot. Anyway, it's a thing. Let's keep going. Thank you for indulging me.
That was just, listen, I'm not gonna say anything on that one. I'm gonna be fair, and I'm not gonna say anything on that one. I'm
gonna say yikes.
Okay, I will say one thing. That was an uncomfortable listen. That's all I'll say. Okay, I'm just gonna say that was uncomfortable to listen to, and everybody else, you have your own opinions. I'm quite sure.
I'm going to say it. Brother, I think you might deserve better. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're just as much of a piece of crap. But you might want to consider you deserve better.
But yeah. I was on Fresh and Fit. Ah, yes. Fresh and Fit. Doxing kids. This is a high view count one. Let's see this one.
Allegedly, we were able to identify 2 of the people in the video.
In this video, Aunt Karen doxes minors and organizes a harassment campaign against them, leaking both their Instagrams and the telephone number to their school. Don't get me wrong, I disagree with what the kids did. It was bad. But just
You're free
so
to add a
we're
cringe,
clear,
Pippa.
Doxing violates TikTok policy and also is super fucking gross, particularly being done against children and then encouraging your followers to harass them. You genuinely should be ashamed for this, and I know nothing will probably happen, but I hope your TikTok gets stripped from you, because this is inappropriate and disgusting.
And allegedly, we were
Ditto.
able to identify 2 of...
Is that doxing? Wait, is it?
You did a thing in public. You're not being doxxed. Someone that said, "Oh, that's Frank. Look, Frank's on TikTok." That's not doxing. Like, if you make an effort to make your information not public, that's a different thing. If you don't, however, no, you're not in safe ground.
Doxing if somebody posts a TikTok of themselves doing a extremely offensive and highly racist. They post their actual faces, and it looks like they wait. Hold on a second. Hold on just a second. In the original video, they post their city location. Look, you can see it. It's on the screen. This lady here is reacting to the original TikTok, which has the city in it. So how can this lady have been responsible for doxing if the original video had it in there?
Yeah, okay. So the internet is public by default, kind of, sort of. Here's the thing. My name is, for instance, attached to my personal Twitter. My name is attached to my Facebook. I have made pains not to publicly state my name on this channel, and that is a kind of an effort to protect security around myself and my family, and Hetman and his family, because we're obviously talking about controversial things from time to time. However, it wouldn't be a huge leap. It'd be pretty easy to figure out who I actually am. And it wouldn't be doxing to do that. Be fair play to you for using Google.
I'm sorry, I don't understand this. This is very aside from the point. Aunt Karen. She keeps calling her, is her name Aunt Karen? Is that her name?
Allegedly.
That's actually her name is Aunt Karen. Huh. Kind of ironic, I guess. Doxing isn't a consequence. Interesting. So that's what the TikTok is. I wonder what's the YouTube channel. Let's see what videos Not So Erudite does on her YouTube channel these days.
I didn't even know that Newtonian Gazer did the same
This
thing.
has been a fun. This has been a fun little. This has been a fun little thing. Heated panel on social media, chasing virgins, women can't handle the stress, love isn't real. Here's the Facebook group for mental health. It's just barely, there's not much on it. Nothing's been posted since, nothing has been posted on here. The last post on here was a retweet of somebody else in April of last year. The last original one was in September, which was the launch announcement. Wait, look at this. So wait, this is the mental help. This is what she allegedly, according to her own words, claimed.
Here it is. Group by Kyla Turner. It's right there. So by this
to receive Canadian pandemic money about. Okay. And there's just nothing on there. This is it. This is all that's on the entire thing. Okay. Interesting. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. When the hell?
I think this is where this gets buck wild.
Hold on just a second here. I need to see this real quick. Sorry, I'm looking through something real quick. Just give me just a second. Okay, so 9 months ago is the first time that she got called out on this. Confronting conversation. She calls herself a psychologist. Analyzing the Doe Destiny situation. Ah, this is the video. This is the one. A 2-hour-long stream.
Bullying. This idea of like I can do.
Yeah. This is the stream in which she says that Doe was being a cry bully. She made the argument, I'm not kidding you, that Doe was being a cry bully because Doe made a joke completely unrelated to Destiny or her or any.
Doe is like the nicest person on the internet. Do not mess with Doe.
anybody in the past, which she didn't even accurately represent.
Because if you do, DemonMama will get you.
The joke. And then she claims that Doe was being a crybaby when Destiny lit Doe up to his audience. Lit Doe up to his audience because making fun of its attempted suicide. So I wonder, this would have been 9 months ago. Wait, this was April 13th, 2022. So maybe that was when maybe that was after she had stopped using the mental help account. Maybe when she decided to dive in and victim blame, like straight up victim blame and defend somebody who mocked my partner's suicide attempt for no reason. Maybe that was after she had decided to stop being a pandemic mental health agency. Yeah, warning nuanced. Yeah, I remember watching this video. It was fucking shit. People here said, I couldn't imagine announcing it to the internet and using it against people. Doe literally never used its suicide against anyone. And the funniest thing of all of this is that I was the one who told the internet after Doe was safe and after Doe had gotten some distance from the situation. Doe had written a letter and asked me if I was willing to publish it to the internet. These fucking pieces of shit. These absolute fucking pieces of shit. Let's continue. Let's get back to the video, shall we? We got distracted, but I think it was a fun little endeavor to find out what type of content not so
Here we go.
erudite decided to abandon her pandemic mental health project for. You know, she got really she got a little distracted. Ooh, tee. Got a little distracted from that mental health initiative.
New player has entered the chat.
To, you know, take off to go, I don't know, do defense for internet bullies and claim that somebody wielded their suicide attempt offensively with no such evidence.
Here's Not So Erudite in chat now. Be very careful. You're commenting on things you have been lied to about. Be careful or what? Or what? Huh? Huh? Huh?
Now, I'm not going to say that Kyla Turner defrauded the Canadian...
Well, okay, so look at here. She says, this is flatly false information. She doesn't contextualize what is false.
In government...
Not So Erudite. Not So Erudite is in chat. Be very careful. You're commenting on things that you have been lied to about. This is falsely flat information. Hold on a second. Let me just show you this real quick. I just want to make sure we got this here. Be very careful. You're commenting on things that you have been lied to about. This is flatly false information. I'm reacting to a video.
Why the be very careful? Like, she comes in here guns blazing. Be very careful. You've been lied to. And then let's see how this progresses out.
And I am commentating on the video that I watched of you in which...
And here we have my questions start coming.
You were a gigantic fucking piece of shit to my partner for no seeming reason except for to gain clout. So I'd appreciate you not threatening...
And then you've got DemonMama's chat going, you've come to the wrong neighborhood.
And or warning me, whichever one you're deciding to do. because I don't think I've commented on anything except for the literal shit that I'm reacting to here. I haven't made a single fucking claim about you except for to establish a timeline based on your own goddamn claims. Jesus fucking Christ. Holy motherfucker.
And as soon as she gets a sufficient amount of pushback, because I think this would have gone very differently had DemonMama brought her in the chat.
Fucking shit. If you have evidence of this, you should provide it. You should provide it.
Not a threat at all. I'm just saying be careful. There's a lot of false information in that video. Hang on, let's
Not
keep
at all
going.
a threat. I'm just saying be careful as there is a lot of false information in the video. Not so erudite. What type of false information? If there's false information in the video, can you provide it to us? I would be more than happy to depart from reacting to this video if there is false information in this video. The timeline. So what's the timeline? Can you explain to me? You're here in chat yourself, so can you explain to me the timeline? So according to you, I'm just getting this clear. According to you, you received funding from the government to make videos. Your social media manager resigned, and then you decided to begin your career in streaming. You did not receive it. You did not receive the grant. Is that true? So more than the timeline was wrong. A company that hired me to run their new program did. Were you the founder of that?
Okay, here's where we start some sophistry. And
that company? The company still has the assets. So were you the founder of that company? No. Were you in a leadership position in that company? The company has been around for over 30 years. So you were in a leadership position of that company. Huh.
So here President Sunday asked my first question. Why in the Mike podcast do you refer to mental health as a company when you're now referring to it as a project? You have been inconsistent in your presentation of the nature of this project. The company still has the videos.
Is mental help a company? The company still has the videos.
And we're editing them as of 2 weeks ago. So you stated that this project will be ready to be deployed and rolled out in September of 2021. Well past the point, I would point out, that the pandemic had reached its fever pitch. That was a really unfortunate choice of words on my part.
And we're editing them as of 2 weeks ago.
Mental health is a program of the company, but that's not how you presented it.
Okay. Mental health is a program of the company.
Okay, let's talk about this here for a second, because this is a really important distinction. I might use my personal account to like my stream here. And I get that. It's engagement. It works. It feeds the algorithm, even in our teeny little capacity is a brandy baby new channel, which is important. But Two Guys Talking History is in no way funded by anyone. Actually, it's funded by me through either gifts or me buying things. And so it's not in a position where I am using an asset that has been paid for by someone else to promote my work. I am using my own work to promote my work in a kind of sock puppety way, which is sus, but not really, because we're not doing anything unethical. January of the year, she's about to turn around and state that January of 2021, she is not in control of the mental health TikTok account. That this has been handed to a social media manager. So this is, first of all, seems inconsistent with statements she made in that podcast about how she got her start, where she said the social media manager doesn't exist. But that also could be explained by the fact that she did not provide a time frame for what's happening. You kind of see where my problems come in and why I start to develop questions, because nothing that she said has made anything clearer at this point. And as you can see, President Sunday is becoming increasingly incredulous.
So you are no longer in leadership of this company, but you were.
My contract ended May 7th, 2022.
Contract
last year.
Ended in May 7th of 2022. So you're no longer in leadership of this company. All right. Well, that answers that part. So what you're trying to say here is that the claims, President Sunday is incorrect on the claims about the mental health portion of this video.
The problem is, if he's incorrect about it, and he's already said he has to issue a correction, the problem is that you have obfuscated the circumstances under which someone might understand your role in all of this to begin with. Like, no one is entirely clear what mental health is at this point. And no one is entirely clear what mental health is at this point, who conceived of it, and what their relationships to each other is. Like, it's not beyond the pale to conclude that we don't have enough information because you're obfuscating it, which does not clear your name.
I'm trying to work out the details here. The money portion is incorrect. All those implications. Well, I don't think that there are definitely a lot of implications. There are definitely a lot of questions that were raised, but to my knowledge, President Sunday did not make any allegations against you, nor did I, for that matter. But that still doesn't answer the rest of the entire video. And this actually raises more questions.
Yes, yes it does.
Okay, let's finish this video. I don't know if you're going to stick around and listen to this. President Sunday says that I am a textbook case of credential fraud.
Okay. Hang on, we're getting to it.
Are you?
No, he's not assuming. He's not, President Sunday, that's worse though. You were in a leadership position in both companies and failed to deliver government-funded material when making content for your TikTok and using it, the mental health brand, to promote it. No, you're still assuming. Except, he's not assuming, because that's the way you've presented the information so far. It's not an unreasonable conclusion at this point. You're a good boy. You are.
I'm just gonna put chat up on the screen here, since this is where we're going, where this is going. Yeah, this is happening in Twitch chat. I just want people to understand. I'm reacting to this fucking video and trying to see what the claims are here. So wait, I do have a question for you. Not so erudite. I have a direct question for you real quick. Okay, real quick. This is a direct question. Okay, this is you can beef with President Sunday in the chat if you want to, but I have a direct question. Were you in charge of mental help in January when that screen share? I have a screenshot right here. I can show you.
Go ahead and Google mental health at Deer and tell me what you think happened to those assets. You can apparently answer that question if you were in a leadership role. Why should I have to go look at it? If your objective is to clear your name, why should I have to go looking for these things?
Show you this on the screen. Hold on a second. We took a screenshot of this. So this was January of 2022. January 17th of 2022 was when mental help was commenting on your videos on TikTok. So were you in charge of mental help at that point? That TikTok transitioned to a company social media manager. In January?
Not consistent with your previous statements in the Mike podcast.
And you were on the board of Adiara. Look, okay. I'm going to leave this part to President Sunday, who did the initial investigation. All I'm going to say is, this, for at least me as a viewer reacting to this, it raises questions. It raises more questions. I was still creating the videos, but the TikTok and Facebook moved to staff. So no, I was not on the board of Adiara at that point. Okay, but also...
If you agree with her, then answer the questions. Oh, 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 dear. I'm okay. I'm chill. I'm relaxed.
So I also have another question for you, which is the one you didn't answer before. Above you said this. Hold on real quick. Above you said this line. I'm quoting you directly. I'm quoting Not So Erudite directly. President Sunday says that I am a textbook case of credential fraud. Are you? Are you a textbook case of credential fraud? Did you lie about your credentials?
You're a good boy. Yes.
On January 17th, this is an archive of the January 17th.
Is she in
Wait,
chat?
on January 17th of 2022, when that comment was made by Mental Help, which you have stated is owned by Adiara, you were on the board here. Is this inaccurate? Is this archive inaccurate from January 17th of 2022? This is not the board? This is the leadership team. Your position was listed as the mental help director. So you were listed on the website on January 17th of 2022.
So my question now becomes, what is the director responsible for? Is the director responsible for the delivery of the ultimate product? If this is the case, isn't the director also responsible for the presentation? Like, don't you have ultimate authority as the director over what is presented from the product? So if the mental help account has transitioned to a social media manager, why is the mental help account not putting up a Chinese wall between you and it. Like, it's very easy to see how that's a conflict of interest. And secondly, you're the director of this program and your contract is terminated and not renewed, and there has been no delivery. Doesn't that speak to a certain level of possible incompetence on your part? That's like, why has the thing that you directed not delivered its product? Why was its time frame? We're now a year and a half almost to the time frame that you said it was going to be delivered in, and it's not there. How am I not to imagine that there is some kind of in case of a lack of competence there?
Too, as the mental health director. Okay.
And here, that smart person, it's me. Wouldn't the program director be responsible for the delivery of the project under the heading of mental health? The board of directors is separate. Of course, the board of directors is separate. That's an incredibly soft.
The board of directors for Adiara is separate than mental health.
Yeah, that would be a pretty. Like, you know what she's driving at. You understand what she's getting at. Answer the question.
Okay. Okay, so is this a matter of terminology? When I asked you if you were on the leadership, when I asked you if you were in a leadership position at Adiara, you said yes, and then you said, but I wasn't when that comment was made. Because you were referring to the board, right?
Look at the cute puppy.
Well, I will say that Erudite did deny explicitly the claims of credential fraud. So snapshots from the archive do not have her listed as a board member. She is listed in a leadership position as the director of mental health. So you were the director of mental health at the time that the mental health was commenting on your videos.
This is rank sophistry.
I've never been a member of the board of directors for Adiara. I was previously an addictions counselor. When they created the mental health program, I was made the program director of mental health, which is not a company. It is a program run by Adiara.
But you presented it as a company. Like, the most charitable interpretation of all of this is that she's fudging her resume. Like, it's like, I changed light bulbs for a living, and it says, I facilitated solutions to provide illumination in otherwise inaccessible areas.
Well, that's definitely a clarification.
Not really. I know you're being sarcastic, but no, not really.
I don't know that that answers the question, though, as to why the mental health TikTok account was being used to comment on your personal videos.
Okay, I put you down.
President Sunday spins a very compelling narrative, is what you'd said before. Sorry, I was just making sure I was getting things correctly. I want to make sure that I'm getting your comments correctly here.
You're absolutely right, Daedalus. This is some Russian state media levels of spin. Holy, we're at almost 3 hours. Jeez. Whether the board or your own leadership, the fact that people are trying to establish is, what is your level of culpability in the failure of this product to be launched? And what is your level of culpability in the use of this product or the influence of an individual to use this product in order to promote your own personal career?
So wait, so I don't know that I did President Sunday. I said the word board instead of leadership, which is a mistake on my part that I can openly admit. I said the word board instead of leadership, which is a distinction, to be fair. I think it's a small distinction, but I think it's a distinction nonetheless, and fair game is fair game. So, okay, so all of this aside, mental help aside, which has been a side issue brought up in this video, the allegations of credential fraud, which is the claim that you are a psychometrician. You have also claimed that you are a psychometrist, and that you were formerly a psychometrician, and that you are a psychometrist. Is President Sunday telling the truth when he says that you do not have a degree, but that you only have a diploma, and also that you can't, that it is not appropriate to call yourself a
fair enough, Gurusu.
a psychometrician? Regarding the rest of his claims, it's a bit too much to get into over text. I will be releasing my full response Monday. I wanted to make sure you didn't get tangled up in false information about the grant and mental help. Distinctions, as small as they are the central tenet of Sunday's video.
And the rest of his claims is a bit too much to get into over text. How is it a bit too much to get into over text? I have the degree. I don't have the degree. Binary option. I am qualified. I am not qualified. I have a certificate that says I am a psychometrist, psychometrician, whatever. It's really, 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 really simple. You have or you don't. You've got it or you don't. Like, I'm not a great video editor. I'll cop to that. But I could pull up a piece of paper and film it and then blot out my name. Although at that point, that'd be entirely unnecessary too. In less time that we have taken on this massive extravaganza. Like, I have this thing. That's all it is. That's not something that should take 4 days.
Video. I think that's fair. I don't think that's untrue. Listen, I am perfectly happy to moderate a conversation between President Sunday and Not So Erudite if both people are willing to engage in that conversation. And I will do my absolute best, as I think I've done quite fair so far in moderating my own analysis of this. I have made a few jokes, as I do because I am a streamer, and I of course, spoke the absolute truth when I claimed that the last thing that I knew you for was your video on Doe, which I felt was repugnant and reprehensible. But after Monday, I should be absolutely open to looking at that, okay? The distinction that was made only corrected DemonMama. It didn't necessarily correct anything that President Sunday said at all. No, it didn't. President Sunday self-corrected about the videos. All that I had was questions. Because when we looked into the TikTok, it was pure chance. It was literal an accident that we discovered the mental health, the mental help. I keep saying mental health. See, that's what I was talking about. The THs and the Ps with my tongue. Yeah, I know. Throwback to way back at the beginning of stream, right?
Well, people have already joined in on bullying Sunday. I don't necessarily think he cares that much about it, or at least is presenting as he doesn't care that much about it. But that's going to be kind of natural, like an expectation. You're going to have people who are going to want to defend her in order to gain favor.
Oh. Okay, small critiques, okay? I got it. This is completely unrelated. Okay, this is completely unrelated. Okay, everybody listen. Okay, this Hear this? This is completely unrelated, but I gotta say this Adiara website is sus as fuck. Adiara is designed to treat women from a biopsychosocial spiritual perspective. Our comprehensive approach to treating addictions is designed to develop self-awareness and impact women's thoughts, behavior, and future. Spiritual development through Christian programming. Wait, what? Okay, I'm sorry. Wait,
Yikes.
What? The battlefield of the mind. Oh no! The Genesis process. The Genesis process provides a biblical and neurochemical understanding of what is broken and what causes our self-destruction. Oh no! Our faith in God's transformative power provides hope, healing, and restoration. Our programming is faith-based with biblical perspective, Bible studies, devotions, church attendance, and prayer. Oh, why?
Yikes. I would caution people around programs like this. Yeah, it's no good. This is it ultimately might have been a better thing that these videos weren't released.
Why did this have to happen? This is completely unrelated, but also hilarious as shit. What? Parenting and child programming. These classes bring established principles to bear on the challenging task of child rearing. Through classes, residents learn how to bring order and set limits while being loving and defining family boundaries and modeling God's parenting character. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, oh boy.
Yes, Cedar Waxing, that's exactly right. This kind of stuff has been historically used to target First Nations women. It's very, very, very difficult. Like, there are a lot of implications wrapped up in this. I agree, Christianese is cringe. You worked for the company.
The women who come through Adiara's doors often carry a heavy load of shame, trauma, mental illness, and an endless path of hurdles. At Adiara, we believe in a God who offers love, compassion, dignity, hope, healing, and restoration. We hope to see new women find freedom and new life in God's love. All right. All right. The Christianese is cringe. It's definitely something. It is definitely some cringe. I will say that is, I don't know if that's just Christianese. Honestly, that comes off as some very questionable boundaries between religion and treatment that makes me, as all of my viewers know, I fucking grew up in a cult. It does trip some alarm bells for me. Let's put it that way. I knew so many Christian addiction treatment centers. The one at my cult was a literal slave program. And the only reason it got by is because there's basically no state enforcement of addiction programs. I'm not kidding you when I say it was a addiction slave program. When addicts would sign up for the Christian program at the church that I went to, their wallet, their identification, their keys were all taken from them. And they were deliberately sent somewhere far away from where they grew up to get them away from the source of their addiction. And they would do work for free for the church, which the church would get paid for. So the church would offer low-cost labor, usually very difficult labor, and that would be a donation, and then they would give their workers to go do it. I'm not kidding you, it's real.
Yikes.
Anyway, none of this is really here, and we've gotten distracted from the entire core of the video. Sorry, I need to check something real quick. Hold on a second. What am I supposed to be looking at here? Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, you like my NASA shirt? I like my NASA shirt
within
too.
The purview of this video. Okay. Let's finish this video. Let's hear out President Sunday's side of things, because that's what we came here to do, to watch the video that President Sunday published. And on Monday, when the other video comes out, we'll listen to that. Does that sound reasonable, everybody? Okay. Okay. All right, let's finish this video. Let's finish this video. We're done with the distraction part. We're done with the tangent part of the stream.
In a time of crisis, possibly using resources intended for pandemic relief to pursue a glamorous online career as a Twitch streamer, and I'm sure the unnamed staff at this company, which Kyla claims to be the founder and the director of, is solely at fault for not a single...
So here, mental help is complete on my side, and the company I made it for is finishing the video editing and branding stuff. I wrote the program, I was the video host, and I made all the workbooks that would be released for it. So this is the mental help part.
one of the promised resources ever materializing despite mental health being apparently so near completion that Kyla was personally promoting it as being ready to launch in the same month. And I am positive that it is a complete coincidence that mental help disappeared from the face of the earth at precisely the moment she found internet success on YouTube and Twitch. Because I am concerned here with her credentials, and as it happens, the website she posted to mental help in her Discord server provides some. Quote, all information provided by mental help is written and hosted.
The Adira address, it looks like they have a storefront in a shopping mall. You mean like Church of Scientology style type storefront? Uh-oh.
By Kyla Turner, a licensed addictions counselor, psychometrist, and graduate diploma in psychological assessment, unquote. Now this is interesting for two reasons. First, note that here she is suddenly both a licensed psychometrist and a graduate diploma in psychological assessment, as if these are separate things. But there's a second reason. Mental Help was supposed to launch in September of 2021. Well, I found the Mental Help Facebook page and through it Kyla's own Facebook page, and there I found precisely what credentials she has. An undergraduate degree in psychology, and a graduate diploma in psychological assessment from Concordia University in Edmonton, Alberta, which she studied for from September 2020 to September 2021, implying that she began calling herself a psychometrist prior to receiving her graduate diploma, and a psychometrician before convocating. Recall that according to the Canadian government, a psychometrician is authorized to, quote, develop psychological tests, scales, and measures, and may administer or apply and interpret such tests, scales, and measures, without any mention of a supervisor, whereas psychometrists merely administer and score psychological tests, usually under the supervision of a registered psychologist. This is the program description for the now discontinued Graduate Diploma in Psychological Assessment at Concordia University in Edmonton, Alberta for post-BA students. Quote, for post-BA students, the program is intended to offer professional preparation to provide skilled assessment services under the supervision of a registered psychologist, e.g., as a psychological assistant, unquote. Kyla Turner is not a psychometrician, either by qualification or by special permission, and she doesn't have any piece of paper reading graduate diploma in psychometry or in psychometrics. She can't have one, again because there is no category for registration for psychometrists in Alberta. I know this because I personally emailed Concordia University in Edmonton, Alberta, and I asked if it would be appropriate, having achieved my graduate diploma in psychological assessment, if I put down either psychometrician or psychometrist in a job application in that field. And Professor Wendy Pullen, director of the Applied Psychology program in the Faculty of Arts at Concordia University in Edmonton, Alberta, told me this, quote,
oh no!
Oh no!
So this is Wendy Pullen, PhD, professor and chair of psychology, director of applied psychology program at the Concordia University, the university that Erudite got her diploma from. President Sunday says, greetings, I have achieved a graduate diploma in psychological assessment in 2022. On the basis of this, is it appropriate for me to call myself a psychometrician or a psychometrist when I apply for jobs in this field? Kind regards. Hi. No, it is not appropriate that you should use the term psychometrist since there is no category of registration for psychometrists in the province of Alberta. If you are not living in Alberta, you should check with the regulatory body that governs the profession of psychology where you are. There may be specific requirements for the use of this title. And we already know that there are requirements for the use of this title by the federal government of, I don't know what it's called there. I don't know if it's called federal because I don't know if they consider it a federation, but the broader Canadian government. Whatever their higher government, the royal government, whatever it's called. Is it called federal? They still call it federal? Oh, no. Okay, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This does not look good. This right here really does not look good for the credential fraud. this does not look good for that allegation, I will say, at least from my personal perspective. Having the actual director of that program denounce the use of that term, sure, not so erudite. That's fine. Sure. You can DM me some things. You'll just have to add me as a friend first on Discord. Here.
We're almost wrapping up this particular bit.
Hold on a second. 1 second. Here. It's easiest if I go like this. What the hell? What the hell? How do I send a DM on this damn platform? How annoying. Here. How the hell do I do this? Why am I boomering out right now of all times? I hate this. Why is Twitch like this? Hold on a second.
I hate Twitch too.
Here we go. All right, there we go. Taken care of. Let's continue. You might want to send this. Well, all right, I understand. Thank you.
So whatever she sent was not sufficient to get DemonMama to change tact. So we obviously won't know what's going on until tomorrow. But it was not sufficient to change tack here.
All right, let's continue the video.
No. It is not appropriate to use the term psychometrist, since there is no category of registration for psychometrists in the province of Alberta. If you are not living in Alberta, you should check with the regulatory body that governs the profession of psychology where you are. There may be specific requirements for the use of this title, e.g., a master's degree. Unquote. Now, Kyla does not have a master's degree yet, and she certainly did not have one in 2022, and she certainly did not have one in 2021. So, if Kyla is not a psychometrician or even a psychometrist, why does she claim to be? It's very simple, actually. Remember that the purpose of a professional title is to claim jurisdictional authority when speaking to laypersons. So, when Kyla disparages skeptics of the validity of IQ testing, say, and
some of the dumbass comments in here, this is from November of last year, so just a few months ago. Some of the dumbass comments in here talking about how IQ is a fake measure are triggering the shit out of me. IQ denial is the same level of science denial as being anti-vax. I don't know if I agree with that statement. In fact, I don't think I agree with that statement at all. That seems very hyperbolic. Let's put that much. Let's just say that. That sounds hyperbolic to me.
compares them to anti-vaccine conspiracy mongers, despite this being a grossly unscientific and irresponsible comparison, her followers, who know her as a psychometrician,
yikes,
have it firmly planted in the back of their heads already that she is an authority in this area, a psychometrician, and that if anyone knows the truth of the matter, it will be her.
I'll absolutely get to the IQ stuff when we get past this. Hang on.
Unfortunately, it appears as if she has no right to either of these titles, which means that not only is she using her platform to abuse people's trust and spread dangerous misinformation, she is also a textbook case of credential fraud. As always, thank you for listening, and take care.
Okay. I don't know if it's possible to separate the history of what IQ was used for and call it a valid test that works in this way. I don't know if it's possible to separate that history and what ends up happening, how IQ is used. Like, I don't think you can separate the two. And Not So Erudite is going to attempt to do that in the chat here. And it's just a repeat of the same sophistry that we have from before. There's no, I don't know if you can fundamentally separate these things. Like, IQ is used to further systemic racism. Okay, that's exactly it. Where do we go from there? What validates it as a measure of anything else than something that does not work for minorities, that is deliberately designed not to work for minorities? So she's turning around. All right, where this goes.
All right. Well, that was certainly an interesting journey. That's about all I'm gonna say at this point. A very interesting journey. I will look forward to the response to this video, because some of these claims seem like they would be very, very difficult to respond to. Also, I mean, Not So Erudite in Twitch chat says, I don't defend race and IQ, just to be clear. I regularly debate against it. Okay, but did you not just defend IQ, the concept of IQ, by saying that people who doubt the validity of IQ tests are equivalent to anti-vaxxers? Like, IQ is scientifically valid. Okay, but aren't you being a little bit Weasley there? Isn't this where it falls into... Wait, hold on a second. Oh, okay. You mean race and IQ. When you say I don't defend race and IQ, you mean that as a single topic. You do defend IQ. This is the reason. This right here, what we're seeing right here is... This is why people don't trust you. This is what, that is so sneaky. That is incredibly sneaky. That is like the most politician response. I don't defend race and IQ, and then people go, you just defended IQ, and you go, I meant race and IQ as a combined comment, and not about the two separate things. But IQ tests have massive, massive flaws.
Yeah,
when people
I saw that.
critiquing IQ tests, as in the tweet that was shown on the screen, which you compared them to anti-vaxxers, they're not just talking about race and IQ. They're talking about IQ tests in general and the problems that lie behind IQ tests. And I do think that there is very good arguments to be made that IQ is, as a subject is intrinsically racist to a very deep level. I don't think that that's like an out of this galaxy conversation topic. Unlike claims of anti-vaxxers claiming that, like, I mean, anti-vaxxers claim that, like, the vaccine is killing you, and they have literally no evidence for it whatsoever. They don't even have an argument for that. It's just literally purely their feelings. IQ is inherently about race. This feels racist. Oh my God. Okay, so now everybody's fighting about IQ in the chat.
Have fun. Don't crash.
I call it the aristocrats. There you have it. That is the first day back on Twitch, and the first day back on Twitch, and this is the way it goes. Oh my fucking God. What a goddamn mess. What a fucking mess. No, hold on a second though. I absolutely understand why people would say that the history of IQ tests is intrinsically tied to the history of racism. Like,
Here we go.
Think that
I'm
that
about
is
to lose my
not,
shit.
Like, I don't think that that's an otherworldly statement to make. IQ tests were weaponized to justify slavery. IQ tests were weaponized to justify denying.
The history is absolutely racist. Most of our history as a species are. No. No, 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 no. Okay. I'm gonna get into this a little bit. Racism as a system and an way of understanding, essentializing groups of people has a definitive point where it starts to emerge in intellectual thought and gets tossed out of intellectual thought. It's not even a case of being existence for most of history. So let's take an example. Let's take the American slave trade, or American and European slave trade in Africa. This has a justification for it that is incredibly racist. You'll see figures like Robert E. Lee arguing that slavery is necessary for blacks' education as a race in private letters. These are primary sources and putting this Christian element to it and really getting into these concepts of we are better and therefore we must do this thing. Now take, for example, how slavery is practiced in Rome at various periods and points of time. A person might be taken as a slave, but it does not discriminate on race. There is a unique racial animus that does not exist previous to a point in time and starts to exist after a point in time. There's two practices, both similar and bad, but one is infinitely worse in its long-term effects because of that racial animus. And we can go and we can look through the historical record and establish where this starts to show up. So we know where it comes from and we understand its application. And it is inappropriate to take the idea of racism farther than it exists in time.
Black people to vote. IQ tests were justified, were used and crafted to justify not hiring black people for jobs that they were otherwise qualified for. That's horrible and wrong, but like, the history is absolutely racist. Most of our history as a species well, that's not accurate. Most of our history as a species is not racist. Racism, in it as we understand it, is a somewhat new, racism as we understand it did not exist prior to the concept of what did it arise with nation states? There wasn't a racism didn't exist in the same way we understand it in fucking Rome. I don't think that the history of humanity is overwhelmingly racist. I do think the history of like whiteness since the invention of a white race is absolutely racist.
You're fine, Bubba.
Oh, wow. This, man, this segment, the Wiki...
All right, there's only a few more minutes left here. I'm going to call it here. We've been going for over 3 hours, 3 hours and 30 minutes at this point. I will reconvene on the Ukraine stuff at a later point, probably sometime tomorrow. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I will be excited to see how this finishes. If you have not liked or subscribed, like the stream, please. It helps us out a lot. Subscribe, although I suspect most of the people here are subscribed. And have a safe and happy day.